Secret Network Foundation. We've already kicked off this week with a live voting tutorial. We had a really good turnout. It was really exciting to have some familiar faces returning today who were at that workshop. And I'm really excited to announce the workshop that we have today, being led by Austin, who's a developer for Shade Protocol, who's one of our really exciting DApp building on Secret. You've probably heard of them before. They're leading the frontiers of DeFi right now in the Cosmos and the Web3 space. But I want to let them take it off from here and take over. Thanks so much for being here, Austin. Really excited for this workshop you guys are going to be doing today.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here. And yeah, just a quick intro of myself. I started Secret Network development back in 2019, so I've been around for a little while. Um, Prior to that, I was an engineer in manufacturing and started helping out with a company that my brother started as a validator on Secret Network and helped them build a website and started getting into some blockchain interactions. And then about a year and a half later, the idea for Shade Protocol was born. Yeah, I was made the leap to go full time and help build that out, and it's been a really fun journey over the last few years. Learned a lot, and yeah, it's just a pleasure to be here and continue to help educate and uh, yeah, spread knowledge about how secret network development works. I'm now the lead front end developer for Shade Protocol. I'm also the technical coordinator of the grant program that Shade has, and we've sponsored somewhere around 10 grants at this point, and it's really exciting always to find people, others to partner with. Yeah, just build out a lot of really cool things in DeFi. The goal of my talk today is really focused around front end development, secret network, and some of the tooling things that are available. Let's talk a little bit about private and public data and different ways that we get at that. And also, I figured I'd demo some things with MetaMask specifically. And a lot of times, Kepler is sort of the default when it comes to getting started on Secret Network, but I figured I'd just jump right in and go right to MetaMask. So that's kind of an interesting integration that's already possible. So, yeah, that's kind of the goal today, and also really happy to take any questions. Uh, yeah, help you guys out. So I figured I'm gonna start by sharing my screen here.
In some of our community channels. To our social.
You guys give me an indication that you can see my screen.
In the past,
Looks good.
So I figured that we'd kind of jump right into the code, and I'd explain some things as I go. What I have here is just a basic Vue.js application that I spun up for this demo. You can use any framework that you like when it comes to secret network development, React, Svelte, whatever it may be. I, I'm most familiar with Vue, so that's kind of what I'm starting with here. And I'm going to do a little bit of a demo on some queries, talk about some various stuff around the whole. So first I want to talk about just querying and interacting with the blockchain in general. So some of you are probably familiar with JS, and Secret.js is a JavaScript SDK for interacting with Secret Network. This is the doc for that, and there's a lot of interesting functionality, all different things you can do. I'm going to focus on some basic things like query and transaction execution. I encourage you to
for the most
check
part,
this out. But we're gonna do some basic setup, starting with the a secret client, query client specifically. Let me jump into that. So,
is
just to confirm, you can see my my code right now. Correct?
um,
Make
wanted
sure
to
that
Yes, it's good.
all right.
accept a certain role,
So here is the setup of secret
and
network clients after installing Secret.js. It's really simple and straightforward. You pass in an LC endpoint and a chain. This is specifically for our testnet. And that's all you need to create a query client. I have a function here that is specifically for, well, let me start here. This function here is specifically for query of public balances on Secret Network. So you use query client, query.bank, balances, and you pass in the address that you want to insert.
So
We go back to
this
app
action now
and the function here,
we're going to be
and you'll see here's an address that I know exists on the chain. You're able to query the secret token as a public token, so it's public visible. You can query balances on chain, any other
very small
public blockchain. But now I want to get to the private data and show you what happens. So here's the second function, query balance.
On top
So
of that,
this is going to be specifically for the shade token. The shade token is a token, which is a token standard on Secret Network. So if you're interested in learning more about that, information here about the snip implementation and how you use it, the various queries that are available. But I'm going to focus specifically on query, basic snip query. So you set the contract address. This is the address for the shade token on testnet, code hash, and then we have a query. And we're going to do a balance query to a search address, and we're going to pass a viewing key.
we launch our ambassador.
This
I think it's something that our network is really missing.
all right, so we were hopping here, and I were to say,
On that
I'm
note,
going to pass in a viewing key string, and viewing keys are required in order to
actually,
query a private token balance
this
on
drop
Secret Network. Say I was trying to guess someone's key,
posting group that
string, and I try to query it, I'm going to get a response. It says viewing key error, wrong viewing key. Viewing key. So only the user that owns this address is able to, using their own viewing key, get the balance. For that's when you go, which is that's the powerful aspect of Secret Network is you have this private data and also public data. You can do interesting things with both things depending on your use case. There's situations where you want to have user data private. There's other situations where you might want to have data public. And as long as I have a viewing key for my account, I'm the only one that's going to be able to.
There is 6 so I do manage all.
So now I am going to jump into how you'd actually create a viewing key. How you would then create your own viewing key.
For community members.
And now we're going to talk a little bit about MetaMask. So I have some code here, and I can share this after
the ones that
this is complete somewhere. But we have this file here that I've generated for MetaMask integration. And there's a lot of various functions here. One of the things I'll mention is I didn't really have time to refactor the code to some of the more commonly used JavaScript like async await. So I'm using RxJS, which is observables library for handling asynchronous data. So don't get overwhelmed by some of the weird syntax. It's pretty easy to transition from RxJS back to like a standard async. But there's some various functionality here for setting up MetaMask. We have function to get MetaMask from the browser, a function to check whether or not it's available, to request MetaMask account or to like approve the connection, actually get the data for the MetaMask account. We have one for getting chain ID, which is I think correlated to the Ethereum chain. We have detect like some event watchers detecting whether an account is changing, and then we also have some secret network specific functions here for setting up a secret signer. Yeah, the wallet signer, getting your secret network address, and then doing some other special signings like sign amino and this second type of signing here. I'm not going to go into all these, not even going to use all these today, but I just did want to show you that as just some various utility functions for interacting with the MetaMask wallet. And I'm going to import those into this main app file here.
And that's all of Secret.js.
That is, yeah, some of it's with Secret.js, some of it's just how like function that we wrote for MetaMask wallet itself and getting the data out of it. It's like a combination of both in the file.
Wow. And wait, and where is this code repository for people to look at after the call?
I'll have to put it somewhere wherever you guys we'll be able to make
Awesome.
it public and put it maybe in the secure secrets or secret network somewhere. Be happy to share
Very
this.
cool.
This
Yeah,
is just some
this is
code
major
snippets.
alpha.
Yeah, this is some good code snippets from the Shade app. So this is some of the stuff that powers the Shade app for the MetaMask actions. Right. This. So I'm gonna enable a couple of these functions here. So we're back here, and now there's first going to be a one-time connection. This is specifically calling the request MetaMask account function. So I subscribe to it here, which approves the connection. And then we're going to run a get address function, which is this get MetaMask secret address function. Again, this is in RxJS, but you can set it up as a async await as well, pretty easily. And then lastly, we're going to get the actual signer that we're going to use to make some transactions. So jumping in here, I'm going to click this Prove MetaMask connection setup. I immediately get a pop-up here. It's going to prove what account I want connected. I have this brand new demo account that I just created right before the call. And that'll prove the connection. No, that's a one-time thing. Don't actually have to ever do that again. And next, we run this get address function. So when you click get address, you get a pop-up for generating a secret network address. This is a functionality built into Secret.js allows you to generate addresses. So we just call that, immediately get this pop-up to create a new secret address. So I'm going to go ahead and sign that. I'll generate my address here. So now I have a secret address that I'm going to chain. To copy this address, you just search user address. This is going to be a brand new account, so I would expect public secret balance to be 0. See what happens. So balances is an empty array. And now we're going to want to get some tokens so that we can actually do a transaction. Okay. And so I'm going to take this address. I'm going to head over to secret testnet, which is a great tool to get some tokens so you can get started on testnet. So I go ahead here. And that address, captcha. have the tokens now, so hop back to the app, execute that query again. I now have some secrets, so that will allow me to have gas to make transactions. So now we have our secret network address, we have gas, and what I want to do is create a viewing key so that we're able to view our private shade balance, which will currently be 0, but I'm going to at least try to get a 0 as a response rather than just this error that going to enable these last two things that I'm going to demo here. All right, so now let me hop back to the code and explain a little bit about what we're going to have to do as far as a secret client. So before we had set up a query client, which was really basic, and then a chain ID, and that's it. When you have that type of a client, you're able to query the chain, but it doesn't contain any of the important user information that you need, things like signing a transaction and things like that. So we're going to have to create a new type of client that has more information that will allow us to do some of these things. So scroll down here. In this create viewing key function I'm about to execute, I'm going to set up a secret signing client, and you'll see it has some additional data here. So you still have a URL, you still have a chain ID, and now there's going to be some additional we have to pass in. So what is your wallet address, which is pretty straightforward. And then for under the wallet property, we have to pass in a signer. And this signer is going to be generated using the secret wallet signer function. It was pre-built, and that will generate that signer so that we can pass it in. So I'm first going to run a function to create the signing client, and then I'm going to execute it using this create viewing key function. The last piece of information that's really important is this encryption seed. So there's a little bit of a difference between using MetaMask and using something like Kepler. Kepler Wallet has some secret network encryption utilities that's pre-built into it, and other wallets that uses that kind of mimic Kepler, whether that's Leap Wallet, Starshell, or Athena. These things mimic that API with and storage of encryption utilities. And when you have those encryption utilities, it's basically some data that goes with your transaction when you execute. And then you can use that encryption data to then decrypt your transactions later if you're able to query. MetaMask is different because it hasn't been built with that same storage of encryption utilities. So you have to manage that a little bit more manually. So I have a function here that is called create encryption seed, and it takes in a string, a password, or whatever it may be, and it generates encryption seed. And your application, when you're managing encryption seeds, you're going to have to do this in a little bit different way. You don't want to use hard-coded encryption seed because everyone will have the same seed then, and everyone will have access to data. There's various ways to manage that. I don't want to get too far into the weeds, but do that inside the Shade app using like a signature that a user generates when they sign. Um, and so it's a unique seed that only they are able to generate, and they can do that on any device that that wallet is. This function creates a hash of your password and does some encoding and returns a uint8 array that you pass in MetaMask signer uh, or your secret network client, that is. And I'll show you how we can use that to actually decrypt later in a bit. So this transaction is going to generate a signing client, MetaMask signer, your wallet address, encryption key. Then we have this viewing key message, which will execute on the SNP20 token contract, so the shade contract. And we're going to pass in a viewing key string, and that will set your user account's viewing key on that token. And then once that viewing key set, you can then go and decrypt and see your private balance that only you can access. There's a class here from Secret.js that we import called message execute contract that allows us to set up contract execution. And you pass in your wallet address, contract address of the token or the contract that you're working with. If this is the shade token, code hash for that token, and then lastly the message which we created here. So you take that message, you pass it into the secret signing client.tx.broadcast, and you can set some additional parameters, like for example, the path that here, and we're going to go ahead and execute that. So let me hop back to my demo and we'll try it. So we got our address. We're going to create a signing client. It's now been created under the hood. We're going to create a viewing key called viewing key. Execute that. We get a MetaMask pop up here requesting a signature for this transaction. And yeah, so go ahead and sign that. Quick second to execute. All right. So now that's been a successful transaction, most likely. Maybe that we'll find out. But I have a TX hash here, which I'm going to use this. I copy this viewing key now, and I go back here. I put that into the query, the shade balance. We'll see if this works. So that, boom. So now it no longer says that you don't have a balance. It now says that my balance is 0. I've successfully queried my balance, shade token private, using a viewing key that I just generated with MetaMask. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And lastly, I want to demo for you guys um, how your transaction data is encrypted. You might ask, like, "Oh, okay, I just submitted my viewing key transaction chain. Are people gonna be able to see what the viewing key is that I set?" They could also use this key to see my balance, and actually, that's not the case. So only you as a user, when you're submitting a transaction, is able to see that the transaction data becomes encrypted. The node that's processing or taking your transaction and executing can't see it, and no one else can see it. It's private data. And I want to demonstrate that by using a query to this TX hash. For example, look at the data in this transaction. So hop back to the code and have this last function here. And what this function is going to do is going to take our secret query client. So this is not the same client that we just executed with out here, signing client. We're going to take the query client. Query client was the one we made up here. Just has endpoint and the chain ID. And it's going to make a query to that TX hash that we have on the screen. In case I lose this, I'm going to be quick here for reference. We're going to make a query to this TX hash to get the transaction data. So let's do that and see what happens. Data for the transaction, just queried. I'm going to copy this and format it a little bit nicer so you can actually read it. Just a website format JSON. And you can see here in the transaction data, we got the block type, the hash, and inside the body of the transaction, there's this message property. And you can see that the message that was signed is not readable. And this is encrypted, and I'm not able to read it as the person that is querying the data. So, and then there's a bunch of other properties here. Some of the data is public, but all of the information about your interaction with the contract, like what actually was done, is private. Now to hop back to the code, I want to demonstrate how me as a user can use my own encryption seed to access that data. So I'm going to modify the code quick here. Instead of using your secret query client, I am going to use a signing client. The signing client is going to be set up exactly the same as we did before, all the same information, including that same encryption seed was used to sign the transaction, and I'm going to take that signing client, make a query using this for this TX hash. Code that in here because I'm about to lose it as soon as I save and refresh it. Save that. I now have my signing client set up with all the right data that we need. Writing section seed. When I make this query, you'll see in a second that hopefully I get a little bit different response. Come back to the app. Create my signing client's ready. And now if I get my TX data, we'll see what comes back. Copy this again. So now, the second time around, when I made this query using a secret signing client with the encryption seed that I used to sign the Green key transaction, I get a different looking response. So under the body of the TX, you'll see the message that was signed is no longer encrypted. It's decrypted and shows exactly what I did. I set my viewing key to this string, and um, so yeah, that's just a little bit of a demo of how you get access to your private data and see your own transaction history. Nobody else is able to see that without your encryption. So that is the end of my demo here on how to use MetaMask, how to create viewing keys, how to query private balances, differences between public and private data. And um, last thing I wanted to touch on as far as front end development is another interesting library that the Shade protocol developers have been working on, something called Shade.js. I'm gonna open it up here for Shade.js. Shade.js is an SDK specifically for connecting with Shade protocol. And what this is just based on our experience with SecretJS and our own smart contract, we wanted to create some tooling to allow people to really easily integrate with Shade protocol. So this is a wrapper library for SecretJS. So under the hood, it's still SecretJS doing everything, but we just make it a little bit easier for developers to come in and work with SecretJS and also with Shade protocol smart contracts. And yeah, this is a little bit of information what it is. For now, it's mainly focused on querying, uh, more so querying data related to Shade protocol, as opposed to making executions and the things like the MetaMask uh, code for integration is not really part of this library. We do have a vision, future state vision of being able to open source that with a more expanded library. Maybe it's Shade.js or maybe it's something different, but something focused more around wallet management and client executions and making transactions and making that aspect of it really, really easy so that you can step in and not need to know everything about all the various wallets that are executing transactions. But right now, it's mainly focused around queries and getting data from Shade Swap. So getting information about various pairs. There's a lot of documentation here around these various interfaces. Getting data related to swap, our Oracle contract, where price data is stored. Doing things like batch queries, which is an interesting optimization to um, interacting with the chain, being able to batch multiple different contract queries together into one query, reduce load on the node infrastructure, and also just make things faster, more responsive. There are some 20 token functions in here as well, like getting information about the token, getting a balance. So that's something that we just did in my demo, but this little wrapper function we let you really easily get without having to think about how to set up secret.js or anything like that. Making swap transactions, information about the message signed action, make a swap, and we also have an example swap router in here, so determining the optimal path through the various shade swap pairs, functions on how to make the calculations, example router for doing multi-hop routes through shade swap, and the code is all available for that. Oh, and then also the contract registry, so you can see our mainnet and testnet contracts that have shade swap, Oracle, batch queries specifically running. Right now, this library is focused just on shade swap, but it will be extended in the near future to other parts of so hopefully eventually we have all the contracts super well documented that anybody can come in and work with. So that was the last part of my talk that I wanted to bring today, just to explain a little bit about that library. And I don't know if you guys have any questions or anything about anything I talked about today. I'd
Kamu
like to answer.
luang makan kok.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Austin. So I know Shade Protocol has a 5K bounty for HackSecret. I'm just curious to hear what sort of projects you're looking to see implemented using Shade.js for this bounty. Like, what you planning to see?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would love to see any sort of analytics around things like that. I know we in the Shade app, we know that our analytics have always been kind of a weakness for us, and we are working really hard to build out the off-chain infrastructure to collect data and display it in nice chart. But also love to see anyone else out there doing things with analytics, helping better visualize what's going on with Shade Swap. I'd love to see any DEX aggregator sort of projects working to integrate the smart contracts and do things like routings and um, whether that's just secret network based, cross chain aggregators. I'd love to see something like that. Uh, I know that Red Eye Bear is on this call as well, and he's one of the core contributors. I'd love to ask him too if there's any other things we're hoping to see out of this hack. To put you on the spot, Red.
No, I don't mind. I don't mind being put on the spot. Yeah, as far as hack secret and the utilization of Shade, it's one of the things that I think is cool is it makes it easier for people to build different sorts of arbitrage bots. Um, like Austin mentioned, analytics is something we're working really hard on within the app right now. But also, having different styles and third parties creating different analytics for different parts of the apps. Shade Swap is one of our bigger apps right now, so that's a lot of focus, uh, or a lot of our focus right now, analytics. But we're going to be bringing analytics to Silk and Shadeland and Snake Secret. Um, yeah, analytics and maybe like arbitrage interfaces. I know we've had some activity with those in previous hackathons, which was really fruitful, and that was pre Shade.js.
I'd also be open to any uh, contributions people would want to make on Shade.js. It is an open source library. There's ways you want to extend it, maybe not entirely focused on Shade, but secret network in general. Tooling or things we could add to it. That'd be really cool. Because I just want more people to use it and that library to continue to improve over time. Any other questions or anything I can answer today?
I just wait for 1 second. I just saw this question. How do you see the role of permits versus viewing keys? Has that been answered yet?
No, I didn't touch on that today. So that's a great question. So when it comes to querying private balances and also various smart contracts that have a private layer, there's another concept called a permit. And permit is similar to a viewing key, but it's not a transaction that you execute on chain. You're not changing any data, you're not adding something to a contract like a viewing key. So it's a free transaction to sign and generate basically a signature that a contract can validate whether or not you made a valid signature based on your account. Um, I think that permits are better from the standpoint that they're free, so you don't have to pay gas, and that's great. But I think there's some trade-offs. For example, sharing those permits between multiple apps is a little bit difficult. Ideally, you'd have wallets that can sort of be that go between various applications. But currently, like Kepler doesn't support storage of permits, and so you're not able to transfer that data. In order to see a token inside of Kepler, you have to have a viewing key. And so we've sort of made the decision up until this point. When it comes to token balances, we've standardized on viewing, and that's just so that users can see their balance inside our app and also be able to see it inside the wallet outside of our app if they want with it. I would like to add more permits in the future. We do have with a lot of our smart contracts, we have something called a master permit, and that allows you to query a bunch of different smart contracts to get your private data, help by the user experience there a little bit, or you just generate that permit one time, and then you get a lot of data on your LP positions or your lend vol positions, your bonds, or whatever it may be. But specifically around balances, we haven't done a lot of permits, mainly because the UX friction around wallets versus application viewing data. So that's that's kind of a little bit about permits and the decisions that we've made up to this point inside the Shade app.
Austin, do you think it's worth just quickly touching on the difference in implementation of MetaMask Shade app and how you kind of displayed it versus how snaps work? Like, especially with token balances, like you're not actually able to manage those tokens within the wallet itself, it's in the application.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of, I don't want to say hype, but there's been a lot of talk around MetaMask snaps, and that's sort of extending the MetaMask wallet itself to be able to show token balances and kind of what we've done up until now. It has not been MetaMask snaps. It's our completely own implementation, thanks to the work that's been done with your labs on JS. But inside of that app, we're able to use the wallet, and because of the fact that there aren't MetaMask snaps yet for Secret Network, you can't see your balances inside of the wallet UI. So, uh, yeah, that's a little bit about the differences there.
Oh, and then we had another question. Do you see any NFT applications on Shade?
Mm, good question. We do have an NFT collection that I think we're gonna be launching at some point. Red may have more information on that one than me. Uh, Certainly, we're open to any of those type of things. I mean, our application is more focused around DeFi, and I think there is definitely a place for um, NFTs to be integrated into DeFi. You don't just have to be a boring financial app. You can have some fun with it too. But uh, yeah, I don't know, Red, if you want to drop any alpha on any NFTs.
Well, yeah, I wasn't sure if Sean Rad was talking about, like, NFT marketplaces or NFT lending sort of things, like DeFi
Yeah.
with NFTs, or if specifically talking about NFT stuff. Um, but as far as NFT collections, yeah, I mean, that's a great community building tool and definitely a tool we wanna leverage. Um, as far as, like, the use of maybe, like, NFT token standards or, like, different types of NFT token standards, I think that's a really interesting, application. I think when we were talking with Lavana, they use, um, I think the CW721 standard their, um, for their positions to, like, represent their positions. So, and actually, if I'm not mistaken, one of the grant projects that we're currently working on is using, use 1155, token standards. So, yeah, I think there's gonna be a place for it. How it gets implemented and is, kind of up to the use case.
Somebody in the comments just wrote that they joined the video late or the stream late. So I just want to let everyone know here that this stream will be on DoraHacks YouTube channel, and I will be sure to post it in the Hack Secret main chat as soon as it goes live. So if anyone missed this material, it will be available for repeat watching. And if anyone's new to Secret in the chat right now who's just excited about what they're seeing and want to learn more, we have a developer call every Monday at 12 p.m. Eastern time where you can just join on Discord and hang out and learn to code with other Secret devs.
Other thing I'll say is I will be at East Denver and I would love to meet anybody there, and talk more about this stuff. Really looking forward to that event. Think it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's gonna be a blast. We're gonna have a hacker house in Denver, everyone. So if you're out there, please come by and really excited to see what everybody builds. Does anyone else have any questions? I'm monitoring the chat right now. If not, we will wrap up here in the next few minutes. But just want to make sure we leave room for any further questions. All right. Somebody said they're so grateful for this overview. We'll be sure to stop by ETH Denver. Thank you so much to the Shade Protocol team and especially to Austin for leading this workshop today. Really excited to see what everybody builds for Hack Secret. If you have any questions as you start to go through these materials, maybe as you watch back through this video, just post them in the Hack Secret main chat or in the developer discussion channel in the developers corner area of our Discord, and we will be sure to get back to you and help you with your dApps. Yes. And please tune into future workshops. We're doing these every Tuesday and Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern time for the remainder of the month. Thank you so much, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thank you guys.
Nice.
you.